It began with a small brown box on a cold March morning in 2024. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, curator of Civil War photography at the National Archives, signed for it without much thought until she noticed the details. No return address, no sender name, no archival paperwork. Only her name typed neatly on the front. And inside, a short message. Some things are not what they appear. The truth matters more than my name. Sarah felt a faint unease as she unwrapped the object inside. It was an 1863 carte de visite, a small Civil War-era portrait from Charleston, South Carolina. The photograph showed two women posed in a formal studio. On the left stood a white woman, Carolyn Ashford, elegant, confident, dressed in expensive silk. On the right stood a younger black woman, Rachel, wearing a plain dress and head wrap, hands folded, gaze lowered in the deference expected of enslaved individuals. Asterisk on the back. Written in faded ink, Carolyn Ashford and her girl Rachel, Charleston, March 1863. Asterisk Sarah had seen many images like this, portraits, staged to present slavery as gentle and paternalistic. But the donor's warning echoed in her mind. Some things are not what they appear. Asterisk under proper lighting. She leaned closer with her loop dot asterisk. The photograph looked authentic. The paper, ink, and mounting matched the period. But something about the two faces tugged at her, something subtle, almost invisible, unless you stared long enough. Asterisk a resemblance. Attention. A secret. Her heartbeat quickened. She picked up her phone dot asterisk. James, she said, I need your eyes on something. Can you come to my office? Asterisk, she didn't know yet that the photograph would expose a truth buried for 161 years. Or that the woman on the right, the enslaved girl, named Rachel, had hidden something in her folded hands that the Ashford family never meant anyone to find. The story was. Already, asterisk, Dr. James Warren arrived within minutes, carrying his portable digital microscope, calm, methodical, the way he always was when something unusual surfaced. Sarah handed him the photograph and the anonymous note. He examined the image first with her loupe, then under his own equipment, his expression tightening just slightly. Asterisk, have you noticed the facial structure? He asked quietly. Sarah exhaled. So you see it too. Asterisk James opened his forensic software and began mapping Caroline's face, measuring the distance between her eyes. The angle of her jaw, the width of her nose, the placement of her ears. Then he mapped Rachel's face the exact same way. Asterisk, the results appeared side by side on his laptop in perfect clarity. Asterisk, same interocular. Distance, similar cheekbone angle. Nearly identical proportions. Asterisk, even the ear placement, a feature. Strongly tied to genetics lined up almost exactly. Asterisk. These two women are related, James said. Almost certainly close relatives. Half-sisters makes the most sense. Asterisk, the illusion of the portrait cracked. Instantly, asterisk, the label on the back. Her. Girl wasn't just dehumanizing. Asterisk. It was a lie painted as truth. Asterisk, Sarah turned to the records. The Ashford family appeared immediately wealthy planters, deeply tied to Charleston's slave economy. Robert Ashford, born 1798, owner of a vast rice plantation, had only one legitimate child recorded. Carolyn, born 1834. Asterisk officially. She was an only child. Asterisk, but unofficially. Asterisk James pulled up digitized plantation documents. They found the name Rachel listed in an 1850 slave inventory. A 3-year-old girl living with her mother, Sarah, a house servant. The child remained in subsequent records, always assigned to domestic work inside the main house close to the Ashfords. Close to Carolyn. Then came the line that confirmed everything. From a clothing ledger, asterisk, girl looks like family. Keep her in the house away from visitors. Sarah's chest tightened. They had noticed, asterisk, they knew she looked like them. They hid her because her face betrayed the truth. Rachel wasn't just a servant posed beside her mistress. She was likely the enslaved daughter. of their father, a child born into chains by the man who owned her. Asterisk Sarah stared at the photograph again. Asterisk the composition shifted. The forced pose, the stiff posture, the downward gaze. This wasn't just staged obedience, Dot. It was a portrait hiding a crime. Asterisk. And yet something still bothered her, something in the position of Rachel's folded hands. A small tension she couldn't yet explain. Dot asterisk. The donor's warning echoed louder now. Asterisk. Some things are not what they appear. The real secret in the photograph hadn't been found yet. It was waiting, hidden in plain sight. Asterisk Sarah couldn't stop staring at. Rachel's hands. Asterisk. They were folded neatly, too neatly, at her waist. At first glance, it seemed like the standard pose forced upon enslaved domestic workers in portraits. But now that Sarah knew Rachel's lineage, the posture felt tense. Intentional. Almost protective. Something was there. She decided to push the photograph further. Using the archive's highest resolution scanner, she created an ultra-detailed digital file and pulled it up on her large monitor. Then she zoomed in, not on the faces, not on the background, but on those folded hands. Asterisk at normal view. Nothing seemed unusual. But with each click of magnification, the shadows sharpened, the grain clarified, and a faint shape emerged between Rachel's palms. Asterisk a small square, pale, folded, not fabric, not shadow, not an accident. Asterisk, Sarah adjusted the contrast, brightened the darkest areas, and the object became unmistakable. Rachel was hiding a tiny folded piece of paper during the photograph. James leaned in, eyebrows rising. Asterisk, she concealed something, he murmured. On purpose. Asterisk, right in the middle of a staged propaganda portrait. Sarah added, the hidden paper changed everything. This wasn't just a portrait meant to show a loyal servant beside her mistress. It wasn't just a photograph masking a family's sins. Rachel, barely out of childhood, had smuggled something into the frame, something she refused to let go of even while standing inches from the woman who owned her. Dot, and the donor's warning suddenly made sense. Some things are not what they appear. Rachel had hidden her truth in plain sight, a truth no one in 1863 had noticed. Asterisk a truth a stranger, 161 years later, wanted Sarah to find. The question now wasn't whether Rachel hid something. It was what she hid. Asterisk. And why she risked everything to carry it into a photograph designed to erase her. Asterisk once they discovered the hidden paper. The photograph no longer felt like a simple artifact. It felt like a signal, something Rachel wanted someone someday to see. And the only person who knew the full truth was the anonymous donor who had carried it for 30 years. Asterisk. Sarah began searching quietly. She posted discreet inquiries about the 1994 Charleston estate sale, mentioned in the donor's note. Nothing specific, just a request for information about old Ashford family items sold that year. A week passed in silence. Then, one morning, a message arrived from an untraceable email account. No name, no signature. Just a calm, deliberate tone. Asterisk, Dr. Mitchell. I am the one who sent the photograph. There are more items you must see. Asterisk, I acquired them in 1994. From the Ashford Patent Estate. Asterisk, the paper, Rachel. It is still in my possession. Asterisk, if you want the truth. Come to Charleston. Sarah's breath caught. The paper still existed. Asterisk, James read over her shoulder, nodding slowly. It makes sense. If someone found a confession or family documents, they wouldn't want to reveal their identity, especially in Charleston. The donor proposed a simple meeting, Saturday, 2 p.m., Charleston Archives and History Center, asterisk private room. No conversation, no questions. They would deliver a box and leave immediately. Asterisk, it felt secretive, almost cinematic, but plausible. Southern families with long plantation histories often protected their reputations fiercely. Someone might have waited decades for the right moment to let the truth out. Asterisk on Saturday afternoon. Sarah and James sat in a climate-controlled research room, gloves ready, silent with anticipation. The clock hit 2 p.m. A soft knock. A staff member entered carrying a plain cardboard box. Asterisk. This was just dropped off. She said. The person left immediately. Hat, sunglasses. Couldn't tell who they were. Sarah thanked her and closed the door. The room fell silent again. Asterisk both she and James pulled on archival gloves. Then Sarah opened the box. Inside, carefully wrapped in acid-free tissue, were 4 items, each labeled in the donor's neat handwriting. Asterisk, Carolyn. Ashford Patton's diary 186-21867. Asterisk. Letters between Carolyn and her cousin Anne, 1863 to 1865. Asterisk. The Ashford Family Bible asterisk, and finally, a tiny bundle marked. This is what Rachel held. Sarah and James looked at each other. This was what the photograph had been hiding for 161 years. Asterisk Rachel's secret wasn't just in the picture. Any more asterisk. It was sitting in this room, got asterisk, waiting to speak. The smallest bundle in the box was wrapped more delicately than anything else, like the donor feared even air might damage it. Sarah lifted it with both hands, peeling back each layer of tissue until a tiny, tightly folded square of yellowed paper emerged, fragile, brittle, but still intact after 161 years. Asterisk. She unfolded it carefully on archival mapboard. Asterisk, a few faint lines of brown ink appeared. Then a signature. Then the full message revealed itself. James leaned closer as Sarah read aloud. I, Robert Ashford, being of sound mind, do hereby acknowledge that Rachel, asterisk daughter of Sarah, is my natural daughter, born of my body, asterisk, and is kin by blood to my legitimate daughter. Carolyn, asterisk, God forgive me for the evil I have done. April 7th, 1863. Robert Ashford. Silence filled the room. It was not a rumor, not speculation, not a theory, asterisk. It was a signed confession that the enslaved girl standing in that photograph was the daughter of the man who owned her. A man who raped her mother, enslaved his own child, and hid the truth until his final years. Asterisk, and Rachel held that confession in her hands during the portrait. Asterisk, Sarah reached for the diary next. The entries marked with red tabs told the story step by step. March 1863. Carolyn wrote that her father called Rachel into his study. They spoke privately for nearly an hour. Rachel left with a strange expression shaken, but not crying. April 1863. Carolyn recorded her father's confession. Rachel was her half-sister. He had written and personally given Rachel proof of her parentage. Asterisk Carolyn wrote she felt horrified, not at the crime, but at the scandal. June 1863. Carolyn admitted she asked Rachel where the paper was kept. Rachel refused to tell her. Asterisk, even enslaved. Rachel knew who could not be trusted. Asterisk Sarah opened the bundle of letters next. One from 1863 revealed Carolyn confessing the secret to her cousin, and begging her to keep it hidden until I am in my grave. Asterisk, and finally, the Ashford Family Bible. Asterisk Sarah turned to the genealogical page: births, marriages, deaths written over decades. Far in the margin, squeezed between lines, was a shaky but determined handwriting. Asterisk, Rachel, daughter of Robert Ashford and Sarah. Asterisk, born 1847. Sister to Carolyn. Asterisk, I write my name here before I leave this place forever. Asterisk, December 20th, 1865. Rachel Ashford. Asterisk, James whispered. She wrote herself into the family record. Despite being enslaved, despite being denied her name. Asterisk, despite being erased by those who owned her. Asterisk. Before leaving the plantation after emancipation, Rachel wrote herself into the place her father refused to include her. Asterisk. She refused to disappear. Asterisk Sarah felt a heaviness in her chest, a mix of sorrow, admiration, and quiet awe. The photograph was no longer a simple artifact. It was the last moment Rachel held her truth in silence. A portrait taken to show obedience actually captured rebellion. Asterisk, and the paper she hid. Asterisk, the confession she held. It survived because she wanted it to survive. Rachel had preserved her identity with the only weapon she had. Truth written in a trembling hand. And now, after a century and a half asterisk, it had finally been found.